Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I think Melanie Mark is waiting somewhere, so could you check on him, please? But I am excited to be here. As you know, every time I open up a show, I always open it the same way with my same good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, because even in 2025, I do think it's so very cool that regardless of where we are in this world or what time zone we might be in, we can all come together at the same time in the same place and have amazing conversation. So as you can see, I have a live guest on right now, this little kitty who's only, I think, about 3 weeks old. She's a stray. I am fostering her until tomorrow. So she is joining us here in Houston, Texas. So definitely let us know where you are located as well, so we can recognize you, even if you are on Team Replay. If you're on Team Replay, then just leave us the hashtag Team Replay and we will come back and have amazing conversation with you. Now, that being said, we have a guest coming on today with us. He's actually waiting for us right now, or waiting to get into the show. I'm not quite sure what's transpiring, but we have the team working on that. And his name is Mark Fidelman. I'm super excited to have him here. So we will get to know him a bit more when he joins. In the meantime, be sure to let us know again where you are located, as I am here in Houston, Texas. And once Mark joins, we will not only get to know him a bit, but also learn where he is located as well. In the meantime, we are sponsored by Market Me More and Top Voices Unite. This is the second season of Blue TV. Blue TV is an opportunity for those of us who've had tremendous success here on LinkedIn to come together and have amazing conversation, getting to know one another, and as well learning some practical tips that you can take away that can help you elevate your LinkedIn activity as well. So I'm super excited to have here Mark. Great to have you here. Welcome. And I am so excited. So we are going to talk today all about how we are going to unlock new investment opportunities. Mark will do his own introduction because I would definitely not do him much justice. But Mark, we have another live guest with us, a little 3-week-old kitten. So she's kind of hanging out with me. So welcome, Mark. Hi. And maybe give us a little introduction about who you are. I already started off the show. So if you could just share a little bit about who you are, what you do.
Yeah. I didn't know today was Bring Your Pet to TV Day, but
I know.
I don't have one around. I might be able to scrounge one up from the neighbor. Okay. So my background is in I'd say half and half. Half my career has been in sales, the other half, and this half has been in marketing. And I'm very attracted to like leading edge industries, and so tokenization and AI are currently the industries that I'm focused on, and would love to share what I've learned as far as tokenization. Fractionalization is a result of tokenization of assets, and this is where the financial world's going, and would love to kind of share what's happening in the space.
Well, I'm so glad you're doing that, because this is a space that I am completely uneducated. And while I am an AI enthusiast, I am as well a legacy sales professional. I sold software for over 30 years. And in the latter half was spent more in the AI automation, language language models, machine learning models. Sorry, I don't even know why I'm struggling. It's only Wednesday. I mean, this is going to be
like Friday.
I know. So all that being said, so I love AI. I'm one of those geeks who, I could have the reason why I closed so much business was I could actually have intelligent conversations about the technology, which differentiated me from other sales reps. So I love this space, but I am not very educated as it relates to tokenization. And, if you talk about all the things that are not just coming for us, that are actually here, that there are those that are taking advantage of, I am lagging behind. So I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, great to be here.
So tell us what prompted you to even embark in this space, right? Because tokenization, a lot of us have heard the technology. We've heard about blockchain. We've heard about Bitcoins, although Bitcoins and tokenization, I think, are slightly different. But nonetheless, you can share that with us. But what prompted you to really start to go down this path?
Well, I was asked to be a CMO of some of these crypto companies that were popping up in 2015, 16, with the advent of Ethereum. And Ethereum, if you don't know, is a programmable cryptocurrency. So you could build on top of it. Many, many, many companies have been built on top of Ethereum. And so I was brought in to kind of help navigate all that stuff. And what I saw over time was a lot of these things that were being built on top of Ethereum were meme coins or altcoins that had no value, provided no value, or they were a security and they were about to be subpoenaed and sent to jail because they were selling securities without any licensing whatsoever. Right. And so that's when tokenization came about. It said, look, here's a framework for some of these coins that are really securities, and this is how you have to do it. And so I said, this is definitely the future, and pivoted to tokenization because I didn't want to end up with a mugshot. So that's how I got into it.
Well, so tell me the difference between tokenization and like Bitcoins, where you started out, cryptocurrency. What's the difference between the two?
Yeah. So a cryptocurrency is a very broad term to include NFTs, altcoins. Bitcoin likes to carve themselves out of it, but it is a cryptocurrency. And they're not backed by anything. Even Bitcoin isn't backed by anything but faith. It's a strong faith. It's like the Force in the Star Wars, and it's doing extremely well. And so you can't take that away from it. But there's not like an army or tax base or anything underlying Bitcoin in order to enforce, the rules and the laws that have been codified. So I guess you could say, the code is managing Bitcoin. But on the tokenization side, everything is tied to an asset, meaning if I tokenize real estate, each of those tokens represents a real physical interest in that real estate. And you can do that for anything of value. And so tokenization, the term is broad, I'd say narrowly used, is it's tokens or NFTs that represent a real asset somewhere in the world.
Now, let me ask you, because I do believe that blockchain is something we should all be taking advantage of. That is one topic that I can most certainly talk somewhat intelligently, not super intelligently, but somewhat. So our tokenization, so this is why I asked this question though, is our tokenization, is that tied to blockchain? So is most all of the tokens tied like strung along through a blockchain?
Yes. By definition, tokenization is a token on a blockchain.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about blockchain, because I do believe that we should all be leveraging blockchain. Tell me what you described blockchain. Geez, here we go again, and it is only Wednesday. This is going to be a struggle for the remainder of the week. Tell me what blockchain is. Yeah,
people overcomplicate these things, but all a blockchain is what's called an immutable ledger. I know that's a big term, but imagine a spreadsheet where every time you record a transaction, and I'm simplifying things because it's way more complicated than this, but this will keep it simple. Every time you record a transaction, it's a cell within that spreadsheet. But you can never change that cell because there's millions of places, millions of computers where it's stored, and you can't change it without, I'm not going to get into the dynamics of changing it. It's virtually impossible, but you can change it, but it's not, for our purposes, that's not important. So imagine every transaction being filled into a cell forever, and it can't be changed, and it's totally transparent and open. So this spreadsheet's on the web that you can query, you can run stats on. And then if you understand what macros are in spreadsheets, those are what I call smart contracts. And those kick off automatically, small micro programs within this spreadsheet that kicks off if you get something to happen. Maybe if you own real estate and you have enough tokens, the macro kicks off, so, hey, Denise has got 5 tokens of our project, so let's give her a free night stay at our hotel or something like that. I'm making it up as I go. But the point is, you can create macros or things to do that's intelligent, meaning programmable, to do anything you can imagine. And that's what hooked me was, whoa, I can have money and a platform, and I could program it to do anything I want? Well, yes. And that's, in a nutshell, the blockchain. But it's, for the experts listening, there's a lot more.
Yeah, well, and I'm not an expert, but if I could liken it even to more simplistic terms, I think about it as a black box technology that you get on the airplanes. It's recording everything that's happening in the flight process. So it's recording, and you can't, although I'm sure there are probably ways that are unknown to us, but most of the times you can't change what's been recorded in those black boxes that I know of at least. And so I think of it in terms of that. And what I think is so super cool is that when something you can't, because you can't change something, right? If there is an action that has to be taken, everything's recorded along the way so that it's not like a simple contract. In the state of Texas, we have a handshake, right? That can designate a contract, right?
Yeah.
But that's only here in Texas. And that handshake is only as reputable as the two that are handshaking with one another. The same with a contract. I can pull up a contract, and I can get really creative, and I can change that contract without anyone ever knowing that, unless they notice everything unless they can seek it out digitally. But with blockchain, none of that can be done as easily, if I understand correctly. Fair?
Yeah, because it's been recorded on millions of computers. And in order to change that, you'd have to bribe or convince 501,000 people to change it on their computers and override it, which isn't going to happen.
No. Okay, well then talk about, so I think blockchain is not just the wave of the future. It's something we're going to have going forward, especially with the technology and the digital age that we're in, but also with the way we as humans are navigating life. And I mean that by our dishonesty, our desire to get ahead and do whatever it takes to get ahead. This prevents all of that from happening. So I truly believe we should be doing that, but that's just my opinion. That all being said, though, it's not about the Denise show. It's about the Mark show. So Mark, tell us what excites you. It's obviously tokenization. It's obviously blockchain. But right now, what are some of the most exciting aspects of what you're doing that you'd want to share with people, especially those of us who are still really unfamiliar with this space?
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine a financial system being upended, and it is right now because everything's localized. And when I say localized, like the stock market and all that, it's localized to the United States. But if you put it on a blockchain and you have a set of rules for every country, if that's the way we progress, which it looks like it is, unfortunately. But since it's programmable, you can have it do different things in different countries. Now you have a global financial system instantly. If you want to buy a fraction of real estate in the US, in 4 clicks, you can do that. Try doing that in a traditional sense if you're a foreigner. Even if you're local, it's very difficult to do. But because it's on the blockchain, because all the rules and the contracts are all on chain, meaning all of that information you'd normally sign offline is all on a single cell on an Excel spreadsheet called the blockchain. And you can agree to it or not agree to it, or modify it, which would produce another cell, that you would agree to. The old cell doesn't go away, but the new cell with the new contract is it shows that you guys did a handshake agreement, but this handshake is recorded in stone. You can do that. So the financial system will be way more liquid, way more accessible to everybody, and run 24/7. It's already being done. It's just not being done in a mainstream way. I give it. Well, we'll see some new regulations in the U.S. this year. So I give it 5 years before most financial transactions are migrating over to a blockchain global financial system run through tokenization.
So we could go a multitude of different ways here from this topic right here. I don't really know which direction, but if I think about, because if someone out there is listening, which by the way, Melanie, great to have you there. Chenny, great to have you out there as well. Those of you who are listening, be sure to drop your questions here in the comments and we will answer them. Also, let us know where you're located so we can welcome you and wish you a great day. But more importantly, if you come back and are listening, which we have a ton of viewers that come back and are in team replay, definitely let us know by dropping the hashtag team replay so that we can come back and engage with you as well. But if I think about this conversation that we've had thus far, those that are listening, whether they're live or replay, I could imagine them kind of freaking out, right? Because you've mentioned we could be globalizing. What does that potentially look like? It's that we're going to see some significant change. And here we've already had tons of change in the last 2 or 3 years at such a really rapid pace. So that could freak others out. And I think the third component there is that I still don't think that everyone truly understands blockchain, tokenization, crypto. Like, it sounds really cool, but those of us who don't actually engage in it or do anything with it is more because we are uneducated and fearful of. And I would suspect that that's the majority of most people. I just again, here it is Wednesday, right? So I guess for those that are on this latter part that still don't really understand it and are freakishly fearful of it right now, when you say globalization, I mean, where do you stand with that? Are you overly excited about it? Is it something we should welcome? I mean, it doesn't matter whether we welcome it or not, because it's probably going that way anyway, but we're more apt to embrace it if we're more comfortable with it. Is it something that you're comfortable with or not? Or kind of give us a little bit of an understanding of how you feel about it.
Yeah, and I'm only talking about the financial systems that are in place will be globalized. There's no question. Not independent countries, not culture, not any of the rest of it, but the ability to move money around and to buy assets around the world, or look at it as loans. If you want a loan in the U.S., it's probably 7%. I'm not keeping up to date on
Right.
interest rates, but you could get one out of Japan for 2.5%. So where do you want to get your loan now? Your home loan or your
Yeah, that would be cool.
yes. Well, you could already do that today if you know what you're doing. But that's the future. So now you have a globally competitive market, hopefully without tariffs. But you never know, right?
Well, that would be really cool, because now that you say that, if the US market is competing against a Japan market where I can get a loan for 2% versus 7%, again, for those that are listening, those percentages may not be accurate, but just for the context of the
illustrative
conversation, right?
purposes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, why wouldn't the US then be forced to actually come down in their interest rates to model more closely what Japan is doing, so that they're not losing the business and retain it here in the US? I mean, what a great opportunity for us to see some markets being driven down so that consumers can actually consume some of these opportunities out there here in the US, rather than having to go outside of the US. That would be super cool.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. And there'll be so many arbitrage opportunities, as you can imagine, going forward, where I could borrow from Japan at 2% and then lend here at 5%, just because people aren't educated enough to go direct to Japan.
Yeah.
There'll be plenty of these things that happen as the financial systems globalize. Now, I mean, the caveat is people get scared and they start trying to block things, but you really can't block a blockchain. You could block you could try to, but people get around it all the time. Just ask the people in China. So it's going to happen. I don't know if it's 5 years or 10 years, depending on regulators. But I would plan for something like this to happen if you're in a financial field. Even if you're not, there'll be many opportunities around the world for you to invest in or to get money from. And just keep an eye on this, because it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, and there'll be many opportunities for you if you're listening in.
So let's talk about some of those immediate opportunities short term. So how do we start to educate ourselves better? Obviously, coming to sessions like this, watching as much news as you can. But if you're the basic consumer, and I would be one of those basic consumers who doesn't do a lot of investment, I have someone who does that for me, right? And I don't know what he does. That's not my gig. So if we are just common folk, what would you say is something that we could do today that we could start taking advantage of this new technology and growing our investments?
Well, the beauty of this technology is there's so many opportunities around the world that are paying a lot, like 20%. I have one on my platform paying 20% per year. And it's a local San Diego fund that invests in properties, and they put ADUs on it at $200 a square foot and sell it for $1,000 a square foot. It's an absolute no-brainer. Now, you wouldn't be able to find that in the real world unless you knew these guys directly, but you can go to platforms now like ours, and you can find these opportunities, and you can invest directly in 4 clicks. It's pretty remarkable. So that's just one example. There's the loan side and the credit side that you can get better deals on. You can put up as collateral. Once it's tokenized, you can put up as collateral your just about anything of value and borrow against it. So let's say you don't want to sell your home, and the banks aren't giving you a refinance or a cash out or whatever. You can tokenize that home pretty quickly and then borrow against it in these foreign markets at an interest rate that's competitive, and that all can be done today.
Okay, so let's stay there for a second. So if I think about my home, so my home's paid for, right? I'm super blessed about that, and I could get an equity loan.
Yep.
Get an equity loan, and it wouldn't be a big deal. But if I wanted to leverage the new options that there are available to us, instead of just going and getting an equity loan, which I don't know what the interest rates are, but I'm suspecting there's pretty high with the way the housing market is today. I could go instead and tokenize my home and borrow against that. And probably if I'm making the proper assumption, I could probably get a better return on my money utilizing the tokenization than if I went to the bank.
I think you get a lower interest rate. I don't know if you get a better term on your money, but there's all sorts of things. We can't go that far. Like there's staking and all other ways of making money, even after you borrow the money, that are able. Imagine being able to imagine anything in finance and be able to program it and do it, and that's what's being done. So, without going too far, there's several advantages to tokenization when it comes to whether it's your house or buying other projects that you'd never get involved in that are paying way higher than your local bank, and it's much more secure since it's tied to a real piece of real estate that we could spend a day just going through them.
Okay, so this is an awesome question then. So if I'm thinking about in terms of, building a legacy for my kids, right? I want to make sure that I've built a financial legacy for them. I've got traditional investments right now today that, I've got a financial advisor that navigates that. Husband has the same. We've got, our own property and that's it. But if I wanted to try to continue to build out that legacy at maybe even a faster pace, because I'm old. I'm like 52, turning 53. My kids are like 11 and 16, or turning 11 and 16, right? So they're kind of young. So I want to accelerate my opportunity to truly leave them a legacy. And I would think that based on this conversation, where I need to really consider, after I do some additional homework, probably just for my own sake, is to go look at tokenization of real estate.
Yeah, and you could buy slowly. I mean, you could buy into commercial real estate that pays a dividend. And so we did the calculation. If you were to invest $1,000 a month for 10 years, you'd have a $20,000 a month passive income after those 10 years, if you're
That
just
would be
disciplined
awesome.
enough to do that. Yeah. So anyone in their early 20s, and this was what I wanted to do in my early 20s, but it just didn't exist. Instead of having to save all the way up, it took me 5 years to buy my first house by saving up. Instead of doing that, I could have tiptoed into it and made passive income along the way, and then spent another 5 years doing that, and I would have had a $20,000 a month passive income at 30. How nice would that have been?
Amazing, right? And I think today we, as a culture, that we in 2025, all of us are looking for ways to build passive incomes. Because look, the reality is, I don't know how you feel about this, but I do think that I don't know how far it'll be, but I think we're going to see conversations around, if not action taken towards this universal basic income, this UBI, right? Where you're going to need things like passive income in order to, I think you'll still be able to survive. I don't know. You tell me if I'm being a conspiracy theorist or you believe the same, but I do think that we're going to see a UBI, at least a conversation around it coming soon.
Well, so here's what's going to happen, because I'm in the AI space as well. As soon as we hit AGI and ASI, do I need to define those terms?
Probably for those, and you don't need to for me. I speak that language, but for most others, probably yes.
Yeah. So AGI is artificial general intelligence, where you have the intelligence is so good that it's just starting to produce its own intelligence and act autonomously.
Yep.
And then you have ASI, which is artificial super intelligence, where these things are acting on their own. They're producing their own knowledge by the, they would be able to replicate everything we know about society like every couple of days or something like that. So you can imagine how smart these things are and what they're going to be able to do. You're just going to be able to say, here's a goal, go do it. And then even more interesting, depending on how you look at this, is once that's placed in robots and you see the robot technology that's being developed, then you have this whole world, and we're not that far from it. 5 to 10 years is what's being estimated. Whole world that's all the manual labor and a lot of the white collar labor is done by robots and ASI. So what does that mean for us? Are we now a leisure class, of people, and just of 20% of us that are, want to work are working on new and exciting things that change humanity and potentially move us off this planet? Those are the real discussions that are happening. Now, there's a lot of roadblocks on that way. This will happen, but there's power. Power needs to increase by 1,000 times more than we have now. So how do we do that? Maybe nuclear power. And then the compute in order to do it without getting too complicated. Compute is what produces the AI from chips. These chips are built from, most people know about NVIDIA chips. There's no possible way right now they could produce enough to make this a reality in the next 5 to 10 years. And then all the robots, that have to be built. Again, there's a problem with creating all those robots, although Elon Musk seems to think he's got a solution, but he's notoriously late. So there's a lot of gatekeeping to get there. But once we're there, then you have ASI that's, reducing or reversing aging, because they're conducting 1 million experiments a second, because these things are duplicatable. It's not one ASI. It could be billions of ASI that's doing this. And then you have all sorts of things that are changing human nature for the better. And this world's going to happen, whether you know it or not. Even if it's regulated, not everything can be regulated in the AI space. So it's going to happen. And once you're there, then back to your original question, are we a leisure class or are there other things? I don't think we've invented a language to describe what's going to happen in the next, 5 to 10 years around what you're referring to.
Yeah, I don't think we have either. And I think that those of you that are out there listening, again, whether you're team live or team replay, so make sure you leave us the hashtag team replay and we'll come back and engage with you in conversation. But I think regardless of who's out there listening, if you're not super educated around this space, you could leave feeling very anxious and scared and fearful of the unknown. But the reality is you've got it, whether you want to or not. I always say you don't have to embrace AI with open arms, but you definitely have to embrace it with caution. You've got to do your homework. You've got to do some research because it is going to be here, whether we accept it or not. So how much we accept it is up to ourselves, right? As individuals. That all being said, I'd like to kind of maybe rein it in a bit so that those that aren't fearful, I mean, the reality is this, it isn't happening today, but it is behind the scenes. I mean, I sold AI, Mark, when back in the day when we didn't even know as a human race that AI existed, except for those that were working on that technology. Yeah. And oh, by the way, for those that don't know, AI has been around. I mean, we could argue it's been around longer, but the first real inception with organizations, it was IBM, MIT, and I can't remember who the third one was, like in 1956. Don't quote me on that date. It's somewhere in the 50s, right? So it's been around in the way that we know it for quite some time. So so this concept of, well, it's going so fast, it's actually been working in the works for so very long. It's just that we in the masses haven't been aware of it until more recently, and that was really when what was OpenAI launched ChatGPT, and then everyone knew about it. But let's bring it back down so people are a little bit less fearful, at least for today, which is, all these things that Mark's talking about in the latter part of this conversation has really been around what the future is going to look like. And it'll be here. It may be a year, it may be 5 years, it may be 10. I doubt it'll be a year, but that'll give you time to just go back and do your own homework, watch shows like this, get to know Mark, right? I mean, this is a great segue. Mark's been spending a lot of time here on LinkedIn. He's been out there messaging, really building a platform and a following. Share with us a little bit how you've leveraged LinkedIn to navigate some of this new not just technology, but ways to talk about such new technology, because you've been in the forefront as a top top voice for LinkedIn. Share with us how you've been able to establish some of that here. We can't hear you. Are you talking? Sorry.
Sorry. A lot of it's I hit the mute button somehow. A lot of it is selfish, but it's selfish for altruistic reasons. I don't learn unless I do. So I have to go out and learn about this stuff. And for me to crystallize that learning, I have to write about it or talk about it like we are now. So I just say, why not just share what I learned with everybody else and, see what happens. And the funny thing about LinkedIn is because you got almost every professional, especially in my space, on there, they see it and they reach out and you form these connections you never would have known about. So that to me is the beauty of LinkedIn, is that you can do that in a place that's meant for business, not like a Facebook or Instagram or TikTok that are meant for other things. So that's what I liked about LinkedIn. If you're in the business of transacting or making money, or even if it's a nonprofit, connecting with people that can help, LinkedIn's going to be your best bet.
Well, that's something I'd love to highlight here. When I first started out on LinkedIn, I wasn't really great at generating content. Hell, I don't even know if I knew exactly what I was messaging, but the benefit and the beauty of putting yourself out there and generating content, whether that is your own content, whether it's having conversations in the comments, finding those that interest you and engaging with them there. It doesn't matter which of the two, but when you start having more conversation here on LinkedIn, you start to develop a more clear direction of where you want to go because of the conversations you've had, because of the needs that people have, the interests that they have, the engagement that you have with each of those individuals. And I think that's how I honed in on exactly what I wanted to do, was because I started generating content here. Again, doesn't matter if it's your own or whether you're commenting, but just engaging on here is so very important.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, that's the beauty of it. And it takes a lot. You got to really start off knowing that everything's not going to be like you think it's going to be. You're kind of not good at this. But if you stick it out for 6 months, then you start to see the results. I know that sounds like a long time, but if you look at it the way I looked at it, it's like I'm just learning by sharing. And, eventually it'll catch on if I'm any good or if I'm sharing valuable things for everybody else. But you do have to have that discipline because you're competing with so many different people.
You are. I mean, I can tell you, as having gone from, for those of you that are joining us later, the cat I kind of fostered her. And so she makes a lot of noise if I'm not holding her. I just got her yesterday. I'm giving her away tomorrow. So I found her a home, but she's like 3 weeks old and she loves to she is a stray whose mama was killed 2 nights ago. I know. So I don't know where the other kittens are. I'm guessing there are more. We haven't seen them. So I've just got her. She's healthy and she's been to the vet. So all is well. But she's joining us here on the show because otherwise she'd be making a lot of noise. But, I think that when you talked about, there's a lot of competing, and if you're, building your brand, I think you didn't say this, but that's all part of building your brand. Whether you realize it or not, you have a brand. So you might as well work on building it in the direction that you choose. And so leveraging LinkedIn is a way to do that, because if you show up consistently, but let's talk about first, I think that there's tremendous value because people then get to know you, see you, hear you, start to follow you, engage with you, etc. But let's talk about that consistency that you mentioned. What did it take for, you said 6 months, you threw out a number, which again, seems maybe like a long time, but it's necessary. Did it take you 6 months really? Or did you throw out that number, and what does consistency mean to you?
Yeah. Great questions. I think it did take me 6 months, but again, I didn't look at it as brand building. I didn't even know the term when I started. I was, I think, number 7,000 on LinkedIn. That's how long I've been in it, because we built a competing product and sold it to Barry Diller's IAC. This is a long time ago, called 0 Degrees. So I was always on my competitors' sites.
Yeah.
But you weren't sharing back then. You were just connecting. And you just upload your Rolodex and share it with people.
And it was your resume. back
Yeah,
then. I mean, it was
people
really
thought,
just
oh, yeah, people thought I was crazy for doing that. What are you sharing your contacts for? It was a crazy concept in 2007, 2008. So, fast forward to today in the last 5 or 6 years where you're able to do, you know, newsletters, articles, just about anything you can do, sharing wise with content you could do on LinkedIn now. And so I said, okay, this is an interesting new platform. Let me start to play around with it. Back then, I didn't think a lot of people were looking at their LinkedIn feed. I think they just went to it, like you said, it was your resume, and you find people that you want to connect with. They weren't really looking at the feed. I think it's a lot more prevalent today. So I
Yep.
really didn't start doing it until I'd say 2017, 2018. And for me, it took me a while. I was one of the early, I mean, I remember just they opened up blogs on LinkedIn. It was a big deal. And they asked me to start writing. And at first it did pretty well, but then they let everyone do it. And then it got, pretty much bogged down. And then you had to be differentiated. You had to be unique. You had to bring a unique perspective. And when we talk about frequency, on LinkedIn, I'd be doing something every day, at least one thing every day, if you can. Maybe not on the weekends. I see, the stats drop precipitously on the weekends, but during the week, certainly I would do something, at least one thing every day.
And if you can't do one thing just yet, if you're starting out brand new, just pick once or twice a week and then just build on that so that you get to a point where, because you can get burnout if you do it all at once and it's not, and you're coming in new. So you can always build up. And again, you don't have to generate your own content. You can start out by commenting
Yeah.
and having great conversation, right? I mean, did you immediately, now you're an earlier adopter because I've been on LinkedIn since probably 2008, but back then I only used it to find a job, right? Or
Mhm.
connect with people. And even then I didn't try to connect with people I was doing business with. I mean, I've been in sales for over 30 years. I didn't actually leverage LinkedIn to try to do business until about 2020.
Hmm.
So I'm a really late bloomer as it relates to that. And then generating content, I started in 20 as well. So a little bit longer than you, but did you start out immediately with just generating your own content? Or did you as well start engaging in conversation more in the comments?
No, I started out creating content, but again, for selfish reasons. So I was afraid to put out something I could be criticized for. So I really took the time to understand the subject before I put it out, just to get a reaction from people. And so I started out that, and then I started, connecting with other people that were commenting on my stuff, and that's where the real magic happens. It's not just putting your own content out; it's commenting on others. Thoughtful comments, not just attaboy. And they will certainly connect with you if they like what you said, and you never know what relationship can be created from just one comment on LinkedIn.
I mean, partnerships, friendships, uh, collaboration opportunities, which one could designate the same as a partnership, but I
Mhm.
define them a bit differently.
Mhm.
New business for yourself. There's so many different things that could transpire, even just referral opportunities because you built maybe not a friendship, but an online professional relationship and you can refer them out. There's so much goodness in establishing great conversation or fostering conversation here on LinkedIn. So I know we're starting to get close to the end of and again, here I am struggling with communicating today, but we're getting close to the end of our session today.
Mhm.
Today. So I want to first kind of maybe summarize. Let's talk about tokenization, investments, kind of the wave of the future,
Mhm.
or really more of what we're already seeing today. So it's not really the future. Maybe share with us one takeaway for those of us who are wanting to really learn how to take advantage of some of these new financial technologies. Share with us maybe one takeaway that you would leave us with that we should go maybe do or act upon or
Yeah.
go research.
Well, I'll be selfish again. I watch and follow and make sure that everyone understands what's happening in tokenization through my LinkedIn newsletter called Tokenized Insider. So I would start there, but that's just the beginning. If you're really interested in building wealth, you want to do it through tokenization because of all of the opportunities that are out there that are far more lucrative than what Wall Street's feeding us after taking their fee. So that would be my one action item that I would give people.
Awesome. Thank you. And then for those of us who are on LinkedIn and want to accelerate, or we want to just do better, or we're just now starting out, it doesn't really matter which camp you fall in, but leaving one great takeaway for them as it relates to LinkedIn, what would that be?
Well, LinkedIn is a place that if you are in business and you require other people either to be customers or partners in your business, it's an absolute must have. You must participate in it in one shape or form. Now, people like Denise and I go all in on it because you were more on the self-employed side. You know, I run a business. I think you run a business, Denise. So it's even more important. But even if you're in an organization, to be able to network with people, put out content, you might have 5 or 6 job offers every year. There's nothing wrong with that. So there's always a reason if you're in business to be on LinkedIn and to be connecting and producing content.
Awesome. All right. So, how I know we heard you say you've got a newsletter. So, we all know you're here on LinkedIn. So, we can find you on your personal profile at Mark Fidelman. We can also find your newsletter, which I would suspect we can subscribe to right away once we connect with you. Where else, or any other places that you'd recommend that we find you as well?
On X at Mark Fidelman's another place. Those two, I'd say I would start with. I just do weird things on Instagram. I do have a YouTube channel for the hardcore tokenized people. That's at Kryptonized One, the number one. So if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And that's primarily it. I tend to only focus on 2 or 3 because you pull your hair out focusing on more than that.
Hell, I can't even stay focused on one most days. So I get it. All right. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Also, with allowing my cat, I don't have a name for her, to sit with us as well. So, Mark, thank you for joining us. Thank you for those of you that are out here, whether you are on Team Live or Team Replay. Most certainly let us know so we can come back and engage with you. I want to make sure that everyone knows we're usually here on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, and then you guys can figure out the rest of the time zones yourself. We are sponsored by Market Me More, Top Voices Unite, and Celebators. Mark Fidelman, we are so excited and happy that you have been here. We appreciate you. And the only takeaway I'd leave with you guys is this. LinkedIn is the place where you can educate yourself. So even if you're not generating content, go out and get to learn more about tokenization, about Mark, about blockchain. You can leverage LinkedIn to do that, subscribing to newsletters like Mark's. And you can also go outside of this platform and find other opportunities to learn. So be in this mindset or mind space that you've got to continue to learn, to grow, because if you're not growing, you're dying. So that's my takeaway for today. So I want to thank everyone. Melanie, Jenny, thank you guys. Mark, appreciate it. Stay tuned for just 1 second as we go off air. Melanie and Jenny, if you'll take us off. Thank you guys for being here on Blue TV.
Bye, guys.